Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was just killed in a shooting at a college in Utah. Seconds before he was shot, he was answering a question about transgender mass shooters in America. An audience member asked, "Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? He said too many. He was shot in the neck during this exchange. Officials don't know who the suspected shooter is yet, but one person was detained after the shooting. Under Utah law, the shooter could be looking at first-degree murder charges or 15 years to life in prison, but also aggravated murder because this happened on a campus. Aggravated murder is punishable by death, life without parole, or 25 years to life. I don't think there will be any question about intent given who Charlie Kirk is. There was just that one shot in the neck. This wasn't a shot like randomly into the crowd. He was shot roughly 200 yards away, so that's likely by a sniper or assassin who wanted an exit strategy. I'll talk more about that in the next video. The feds have the authority to be involved here because the shooting happened on a university campus, and it involved a speaker likely known for political viewpoints. So they're probably thinking about political violence, interstate crossing, so where was this suspect from, and civil rights violation. The FBI and ATF are both part of this, so there could be federal hate crime statutes, laws around political violence, or protection of civil rights. Anyone who solicits, aids, encouraged, or assists in committing the shooting could also be charged as an accomplice, so they could face the same penalties as the shooter. So if this does get charged as aggravated murder, any accomplice, so someone who helped with the planning or aiding of this, could also be looking at life or the death penalty. What are investigators actually looking for? They're going to do a trajectory analysis where they trace where the bullet came from. Seems like probably from a rooftop or a second story, maybe a balcony. They're also going to look for physical evidence, spent casings, bullet fragments, shell trajectories, and any surveillance. But we know there wasn't really any special security. I think this was a student-run event. Did they find the weapon and cartridge? Kirk could have been shot with a rifle that you just kind of like, you just break it in half, you stick it in a backpack, and then the shooter would just blend in on campus. There were obviously eyewitness accounts and video footage, multiple cell phone videos, plus podcasters and spectators who were there with more AV equipment. Eventually, they'll also be looking at things like ballistics, matching the bullet to the weapon, DNA or fingerprints from the weapon or nearby surfaces, digital records, campus camera footage, social media posts, or any other digital trails. They'll also have to zero in on motive and intent. Political motivation is very possible here. Kirk is a high-profile conservative voice, but we can't assume that that's what the motive was. Investigators will do a background check, see if the shooter had any extremist affiliations or past violent behavior. Charlie Kirk case is moving so fast. They have someone in custody. Wait, that person's been released. No, wait, they've been detained again. Here is what all of that means. If someone is a subject, that person's conduct, something they did, falls within the scope of a criminal investigation. So basically, they've done something that looks sus, potentially illegal, but feds haven't decided whether they will bring charges against that person. A person of interest can mean a lot of things. Investigators think you have some information that they want. You're connected to the incident. And maybe, based on what you say, you move in their eyes to being a witness versus being a target, which is the worst category to be in. When someone is a target, the government has substantial evidence that that person committed a crime. Investigators may still be building their case, but they've already got a lot on this person and they're very likely going to be charged. Even if one of the people who were detained in the Charlie Kirk investigation were released, it doesn't mean that formal charges aren't coming. It doesn't mean that they're not still a subject of the investigation. It also doesn't mean that they're anything more than a witness to the case. It just means that they don't have enough information to hold the person. Authorities might release someone with monitoring or as a person of interest until they have more information, but things could really evolve. Everything could change based on what new information the feds obtain.